David.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Talking about voting rights and cultural misappropriation and stuff like that. And what got us going on this was now all these ads are popping up, especially in Georgia, about Democrats are trying to save you from evil Republicans. And this isn't a Democrat-Republican thing, because believe me, if they're making it more about the party than about the people they're supposed to be representing, you got a problem. It doesn't matter Democrat or Republican. But Republicans are trying to take away your voting rights because you don't have identification. And cultural misappropriation, because now there's this law about hairdos.
Black people, black women.
Black women and elaborate hairdos, and you can't discriminate about hairdos, which I've rarely ever seen or heard of. The only example I can think of that is when I used to work for Frito-Lay. They did have some restrictions on hair, because, you know, they're manufacturing food. And I don't know if you've ever seen like a fried and seasoned weave. I have. A lot of times when there's foreign objects in the packages and the PMO would catch it and they put it up on the wall of shame where you check in, and they pin the stuff up there, pieces of lost jewelry, whatever. A lot of times it was hair extensions and weaves that somehow made it through the chip process. You'd have to almost wonder if they didn't do it deliberately, because I don't know how you're wearing hairnets and all kinds of other stuff they made you, how that happened. But, you know, it just sparked some conversation, and we're sharing that with you. First and foremost, getting back to the idea of voting rights and how asking for identification to help to prevent possible fraud, where, you know, most countries actually do ask you for identification. They want you to identify yourself. In the US, they want to keep you from doing that. And especially whereas we work in mental health, and we're talking wards of the state who are in state custody, who are never going anywhere, who can't read, some of them can't even speak, people with IQs in the 50s or lower, who are registered voters because the state insists upon it. Let that sink in, okay? And they never go anywhere, and they don't fill out absentee ballots. If you gave them an absentee ballot, they'd crumple it up and put it in the toilet and try to flush it. I'm not kidding, because these are the type of people we work with, myself and the lovely lady behind the camera. But they're registered, and the state insists. I wonder how that works. Okay, but taking away or trying to get people to register to at least eliminate the idea that there might be fraud, even if there's not, because there's a lot of debate about that, somehow is trying to oppress black people.
Well, in Georgia, you're automatically registered now.
That's true.
Without your consent.
When you go to the DMV.
Yeah, you go do anything with your driver's license, they automatic, and they do not tell you. Because it used to be one time they gave you a sheet of paper and they asked you, do you want to register to vote? They don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I got a thing saying that I was registered. I've never voted in my entire life. I'm 44 and I'm black. I've never registered to vote, and I've never voted. But the last election, 2020, I started getting all these things telling me that I was registered. And I called, and I'm like, I never registered to vote. Why am I getting this? This is fraud. And they told me, you live in Georgia, and now Georgia registers you to vote automatically if you do anything with your license, and you have to tell them you don't want to be registered. But they never tell you.
And they never asked.
Or even ask.
Yeah. And voting, conscripted voting is not freedom of choice. I just want to point that out.
Because my choice.
Some countries it's compulsory. You have no choice.
Yeah, I never wanted that. And then they say, if you have, because it was a time some years ago, they wanted you to have a voter ID card or show ID to vote. And then you had all of these black activists saying how that was racist.
Thanks, Al Sharpton.
Because black people don't have ID cards. And I said then, that's not true. because you can't get welfare, you can't get food stamps, you cannot get Medicaid, and you can't have a bank account or cash a check without a ID card.
Their implication being that black people in poverty can't vote. Let me just point that out, because not all black people have welfare and whatever.
But I'm saying they're saying that you have to, that blacks, be it impoverished or not, don't have ID card. But again, you can't get federal services without an ID card.
You can't get anything.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have a driver's license, but you got to have a state ID. And I had a brother that was disabled, and for him to get his funding, he had to have a state ID. And my mama took him down and got him a state-issued ID card.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had Medicaid, Medicare. The people at our work, every last one of them got an ID card because they have Medicare. They're in the state system. They get state funding. If you get any type of public assistance, you have to have ID card. So to say you're racist against blacks because blacks or Hispanic, whatever, don't have ID card, you lying.
Yeah, they do.
And if you believe it, you're ridiculous. If you believe that to be true, you're just as ridiculous as the person that said it.
And to expound on that, just for comparison, we've both worked with the homeless. They all have ID. Mm-hmm. They all have ID.
They got Social Security card.
Yeah.
They got state issue ID, be it again, just a plain identification card or driver's license.
They've got something.
You have to have that.
They've got something, because then, you know, if they want to check into a shelter, whatever they're doing, they might be called upon to identify themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, all of this lies, and the only reason why they put it out there is because somebody believes it.
Yeah. They think everyone is stupid, and unfortunately, most people are not that smart, but they take advantage of the fact that people are not that smart, that people aren't going to research it. They're pulling the heartstrings of people who don't know any better. Mm-hmm. You know, that are like, oh, well, these poor people, they don't even have identification, and people are trying to keep them from voting.
People don't vote because they don't want to.
They don't want to.
Again, I'm not impoverished or even uneducated. I don't vote because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Period. Cut and dry.
And whether you like that or not, people who are watching, because they call that slacktivism, that's the label they try to put on that now.
Oh, what? When a person
when you don't want to vote, slacktivism.
Oh, okay. Well.
But it's still that individual's choice.
Yeah.
If you're if you're going to try to force them to vote, don't talk about freedom and liberty. You really don't have freedom and liberty anyway. You have privileges. Just call it what it is, but don't pretend like there's freedom and liberty and you're going to try to bully somebody into something. And that falls into also, I did some videos a while back about all of the advertising that we were getting. We were getting tons of cards and letters and notices in the mail from voting registries and from senators and from all these other people telling us to vote, and all of these things to say, oh, well, we noticed you didn't vote in the last election, or we know what your voting record is, or...
And they send you a thing with your voting record going back from 2000 to the present, showing if you registered and if you voted.
And I did a video on this because of the sheer number. It was like 8, 9 a day during the last major election were coming in, and I did a video showing all of these postcards and letters and forms and everything that we were getting. By the way, most of them postmarked out of the state.
But the thing that was weird about that, I was the one getting all of the postcards.
Yeah.
He only got about, in total, I probably got what you say, 100, literally.
Maybe probably
a little more.
Mm-hmm.
He probably got 10. And I'm not exaggerating. I am not exaggerating. And all of them were about black people, were about voting, and about women.
A lot of them were about women and black empowerment. Mm-hmm. That angle was on there. And when I did a video on it, because I was like, this is ridiculous, look at this stack, this is just from this week, whatever. ScrewTube pulled the video down for misinformation. It's my mail, I'm showing you these, okay? And you're telling me I'm making it up? Okay. I just wanted to point out that I did 2 videos on that and they yanked them. At least 2, and they yanked them for misinformation. Like I'm lying to people. I'm sure we're not the only ones who were getting that volume of mail. And again, like she pointed out, they were trying to work the black female angle on hers. They knew who she was.
Well, they were also bullying me.
Yeah.
Oh, your friends and your family and coworkers are going to know that you didn't vote because now you're registered. So they couldn't tell me that I wasn't registered.
And they have these services now where you can like check up on people to see it. They said they can't see if you who you voted for, but they will know if you did or not.
Yeah, and
And
they put the web address on the letter saying, go to this website to see who voted and if they're registered. And it's like, you're not bullying me to change my mind. Now I really don't want to do it because you're trying to force me. Even if I was on the fence, I got myself on the fence. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to start thinking about it and maybe I will. But now you're bullying me and sending me threats.
Yeah, and the useless people like Warnock, who's done nothing, or Abrams, who has done nothing. Her biggest success has been on what, Star Trek?
She was on Star Trek recently.
The new Star Trek as President of Unified Earth. Good luck with that, sweetheart.
And then Warnock, or whatever his name is, made all those comments about veterans and how they need to be killed and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, I'm a veteran. You really want me to vote for you?
Yeah, good luck. I'm surprised he made it.
Yeah, well, they rigged the election.
And you have to wonder. And the other thing, of course, like I stated earlier, was about the cultural misappropriation, something I'm really sick and tired of hearing. I'm tired of being preached to about cultural misappropriation from people wearing wigs, false eyelashes, and foundational makeup, which is all very European, by the way, as if, like, for example, no one in any culture anywhere in history ever braided hair before black people did it. I'm sorry, that's just not true. Or the new thing now where they do they stick the hair to their forehead. And then,
they do the edges.
That's coming back. I forget what they call that. But and they were like, oh, white people are starting to do it now too. They're copying us. You know, that's a flapper style, right? They were doing it over 100 years ago, black and white people. And no one cared who was doing it or why then. Don't know who started that, to be honest, but now it's a new thing and it's only for blacks. And I'm like, that doesn't make any damn sense. Why do you even care with your like 8-inch long fingernails that you can't wipe with?
Yeah, I don't understand that. You can't properly wipe your behind if you have a bowel movement when your nails is 10 inches long.
I probably shouldn't have said that, but still it bothers me.
Because it gets on my nerves. You see these people and the nails are ridiculous. I mean, they're long, they have sequins on it, and it's pointy at the end like a witch or something, or some bird talent. You know,
and then these huge wigs, and like I said, all this foundation to enhance color. And it's like, I don't get that. Or I don't like a lot of makeup on a woman anyway, period. But I never liked it in the long eyelashes.
You know your eyelids get heavy and it gotta be tired.
Must be. I always think of Mrs. Slocum from Are You Being Served when she had the false eyelashes and she's like... But a lot of the styles that you're using themselves are cultural misappropriation, but then you're going to cry about it with everybody else and get away with it because of the current narrative. And that narrative is offensive also. You're creating more division with that narrative. You're giving people who otherwise might not have racial implications excuses to be upset, or reasons to be upset,
or nervous,
or fearful or nervous. And we ran into a few examples of that just all in one day. We were out.
Last week.
We were out just like perusing local thrift stores and ran into this a few times. We had the one guy who was nervous because he got in front of you by accident. He had stepped in front of her and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. What did he say? Something about I'm not like...
Yeah, I'm not like what people say I am. And I'm like, oh, I'm not worried about it. I'm not afraid of you.
And he's
because
like,
I moved out of his way.
And he looked so relieved.
Yeah, because I was looking at the shelves and he was coming with a cart and I moved. I was like, go ahead, you can get back. Oh no, it's okay. All right, I'll go around. And I'm like,
this is an older white guy, but he looked so nervous and he was so relieved when she wasn't upset. And then the other girl, the cashier, saying, can you come with me to the market when I go on break next to, because there's like a place next door. And she was like, just go. And he was like, yeah, but it's all like, they're all Hispanics in there and I feel like I don't belong in there. They're going to get mad at me or something. 2 black girls, by the way.
Yeah.
And then she was like, they're selling food. They don't care who's buying from you. That's ridiculous. What are you talking about?
Because it's a Mexican little grocery mart convenience store.
And they cook in there or something.
Yeah, and they sell stuff, but it's predominantly Mexican or Hispanic,
oriented.
Whatever. Yeah, stuff.
Like
and
they
she
care.
wanted to go there on her lunch break to pick up something, but then she's terrified to go. And it's like society has made her afraid to go into a store to buy something. Because they told her, well, the majority of these people in this place is this color and you're another color and they're going to get mad. They don't want you in there and all of this and that there. Then walk your behind over to Burger King that's in the other end of the parking lot if you so terrified to go into a store.
And they spoon-fed us this lie about being the great melting pot in public school, and then they want to divide us up all over the place. They want to split us at every possible juncture. And I grew up watching us move away from that, and then in the last 20 years we've been going back to it, and we've been led back to it because society itself was trying to get away from that mentality. And the other one was the dentist's office, and that was interesting because I walk into the dentist's office and you have the check-in station because the person's sitting there and they got to take your temperature and make sure that you don't have cooties now, and make sure you have a mask on and all that nonsense. And she's there, and the other woman is standing next to her because they were talking, and they both work at this dentist's office, and I was the only white person there. Let me just point that out. So the waiting room is right here, and they said, well, what are you coming in here for today? And I said, actually, I'm just coming in to sit with my wife. Yeah, and they were like, your wife? And they turn, and I said, yeah, she's right there. And they're looking, and they're looking, and then she says, yeah, me. And then they both go, oh. It didn't occur to them. We might be a mixed couple. It makes me think of, it was on All in the Family. There was this riddle that nobody could figure out in All in the Family. It was this obvious riddle, but they weren't supposed to figure it out for the purpose of the episode. And it was like, person gets into a car accident, goes to the hospital, needs surgery. The surgeon looks and says, I can't operate on my own son. We're gonna have to get someone else. But the surgeon's not his father. Who is it?
It's his mother.
Yeah, obviously it would be his mother, but everybody on the show is like, gee, I don't know, because they're trying to, it was a feminist episode. And it felt like that. Like it didn't occur to them, oh, maybe one of the 2 black women sitting in the waiting room might have been who he's talking about. I guess not. Like, what in the hell? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. And in my own personal experience, and I've mentioned this before, and it could just be because that's not the type of person I typically associate with. In my personal experiences, when I've run into a situation where something was racially uncomfortable, I've been the target. And I've heard once or twice where another white person's made an off-color comment, and I can think of only like really 2 examples, and they were both weird. It's weird. One was when I worked for Crystals, and it was this woman, and she was from Poland, And there was a guy who used to come into the Crystal's was a shoe store. This was in the like late 80s, early 90s. There was a guy who used to come in who was from the Tellos across the street. It was like a clothing store, and try to talk to her. Black guy, he liked her. And I had said something to her like, well, he likes you. Are you ever going to go out with him? And she goes, oh, no. Black guy, forget it. Ugh. Like, and I was like, Katana's black. Because she has a roommate who was a black girl, and they're like bread and butter. They went everywhere together, did everything, and she was like, oh, that's different because she's a woman. Black men, ugh, like that. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. But then I ran into the same thing again when I was a manager at Builder and Sons, a supermarket. And there was a manager there who did the same exact thing. Another manager, a guy, he was saying something, and he goes, oh, do you think so-and-so hurt me? Black cashier woman who was in the next aisle. And he says, maybe I should go apologize. Because he said, he didn't even say anything that bad. I forget what he said, but it was just something stupid. And I was like, well, if you're going to say that, what are you worried about her for? And he says, yeah, but she's a woman. It's not the same thing. And I'm like, what does that mean? What the hell does that mean? I don't get that. But those are my two examples that I've ever encountered where a white person said something that was weird about black people.
Two white guys tell me, and they were not even, when I was in the military, not even in the same place, not the same person. They were like, you're really pretty for a black girl. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? And I mean, in both instances, I just looked like,
what?
What? And then it came out of the blue. There were both men in my unit, but I never really talked to them. We didn't, but they out of the blue. And I'm just like, where in the world did that come from? Why did you tell me that? You've never talked to me before, and this is the first thing you say to me. I wasn't offended. I didn't feel anything. I'm just like, what does that mean?
And that's all more awkwardness than racism.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was racist.
Even my examples were more like awkwardness. It's not like I hate me some negress, or whatever. Just running around with a Nazi flag as a cape or something, weird stuff, or wearing a hood. I've never seen nothing like that in my life, except on television.
Yeah.
But I've been subjected to a lot of it. And I guess the reason that I don't take it personally is because I was saved by a black guy once. I used to put up with a lot of that when I was a kid, actually getting jumped, because forced busing. I was around during that era when people were burning school buses. And I was coming down the road once, and this was, I know we just went in a totally different direction with this conversation.
What are we talking about, voting?
At least
hair?
we're being honest.
Yeah.
But coming down, and it was Brighton Avenue in Allston, in the Boston area. Okay, and I was maybe 12, and I'm coming up the street, and there's these two black teenagers, and I mean like maybe 18-ish, much older, much bigger than I was. Just grabbed me and pushed me up against the wall and started throwing me around. No explanation. And they're like 1.5 feet taller than I am. And I'm like, what in the hell? I don't even know who they were. And this guy comes out, big black guy, looks like he was in his 40s. It was a Xeroxing shop. It was a printing shop. Comes out, the hell do you think you're doing? Yells at them, runs them off. They take off. Tells me, come in, sit down. You all right? Can I call somebody? And he was really friendly. He was like, what happened? And I was like, I don't know who they were. And he was like, you don't even know who they were? And he says, wow, that's just embarrassing. And I, older, I realized when he said that, he was talking about himself. That was embarrassing because they had no reason to do that other than, since they didn't know me. But I've had things like that happen when I was a kid. And then, things were good for a long time, and now we're having issues again. And I hate seeing that.
And it's politicians, and it's the media fueling racism.
They make money off it.
Yeah, and they're fueling it, and people are so ridiculous and so stupid. They believe it, and they buy into it, and they just jump on board without any thought, without even looking around and say, okay, is any truth to this? And then you see these stupid videos. Like this one girl, she did a video and put it online talking about my white neighbors are standing outside staring at me for an hour.
Sure.
Okay, why are you outside staring at them for an hour to even know they're staring at
all
you?
These fake traffic stops.
Yeah, and they
you
always
find out-
get caught because the police wear body cams now.
Yeah.
And then they'll show you the whole thing, and nothing
You find
ever
out
happened.
they were lying.
Yeah.
There's so much of that fakery going on, but people will buy into it. People will believe it because they choose to.
Yeah, because they want to. They want to believe that there's a problem when there is none.
Yeah, and I told that story about the guy in the Xeroxing shop because, that showed me at a young age that, okay, you know what? They're not all the same. Mm-hmm. It's just an important little epiphany there, that because if you're being picked on like that all the time, and then somebody shows you that, okay, it's not all of us, and that's important to know, because it's really, there's your fringe minority. That's a term that like to throw around right now. I don't think nearly as many people, black, white, or otherwise, Hispanic, whatever, are nearly as prejudiced as they're made out to be. Mm-hmm. But it's encouraged.
Yeah.
It's encouraged because there's a narrative, there's money to be made,
It's almost celebrated.
there's issues to be pushed and taken advantage of, and we're the pawns in that chess game.
And then white people are made to feel guilty and shame for being white. Now you got all these stupid actors are ashamed because they're white and they're getting all these roles.
The guy from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's
His
like,
little breakdown.
yeah, it's like nobody cares about you.
And that brings me into another little subject there, my little Indian story. Mm-hmm. Actually, I had a run-in when I was living in Kansas, and the guy was going on about how when he sees Mount Rushmore, it brings a tear to his eye and all this other stuff. He was an activist, and I was like, if you're looking for white guilt, you got the wrong guy. Because my ancestors came over on the boat during the Industrial Revolution, and then he's like this. He has this grin, and then he reaches over and he pets me on the shoulder like that real quick, and he was like, "You're smarter than most white folks." And just between the two of us, but basically that just told me that's just an angle that this guy's working. He didn't really believe or care about any of that.
No. None of them do. Just like with changing the names of the sports teams, nobody cares about the name of them dumb sports teams.
But it's a way to pretend like you did something when you didn't do anything.
But it doesn't even matter. So, I don't know.
But, what can I say? We prattled on long enough. I'm sure there's a lot to be said. We could go on and on, but, give people in the comments section a chance. If you have any thoughts about that, feel free to post your thoughts in the comments section down below. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you get where we're coming from. Share it if you can. Probably the only way it'll get seen. ScrewTube hates my guts. Subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. Check out some of the other videos if you wanted to help the channel out. There are links for that down below. Every little bit helps, and I sure do appreciate it. It helps the cats that you saw randomly. Those are animals that we take care of, strays that we pick up that get dumped in the woods out here. And if that's it, then what more can I say but stay frosty, folks, and thanks for watching.